See, this is for get knowledge base. This is for ingesting it. This is for create knowledge base. So this is the API for creation. So at the end of the day, you are going to use APIs only to do it. It's just to let you show that how easy it is to do it through console as well. At the end of the day, you can use APIs or you can use IAC, you can use anything to do it. So you'll get a full API to do it. So at the end of the day, if we look into it, the create API is there. For example, knowledge base configuration, whatever we have done there, you get same API there, so you can use that as well. So you are going to use either an IAC or a direct API to basically call this thing and do it. This is console is just so that it's so easy to do it. Same thing you can do it through APIs or IAC or anything like that as well. You got, so if you look into this left hand side, you get APIs for everything. This is full documentations of Bedrock API reference only. Anything more on this, on the RAG based thing? Yeah. Yeah. You can use an external source in sense, yes, you can use a custom data source there. So you go to this vector store. This is the custom data source that you use.
Okay. So in that custom source, can we select a database like a MongoDB or something?
So again, so there the lambda, if you look into this thing, this, I'll show you.
As you mentioned, like MongoDB Atlas support for saving embeddings.
No, that was for
saving the embeddings, right?
No. That was, again, you're confusing between two different things. This is data source. That is for.
So I'm asking, is there any
yes,
plug and play
have
for
connectors.
Atlas also?
You have connectors. For example, if you go there, now here you need to select the lambda function that will fetch your from any data sources, create it and then do it. That's the way. But again, there is going to be an additional DTO charge, so we don't recommend customers, because again, if you want to use MongoDB Atlas, you can directly use it from these things, or first S3 being a more cost-effective solution for you.
Basically, while configuring the Mongo Atlas, we choose Amazon as the provider. So is there any internal connectors or like any connectors?
Lambda would be used, no internal direct connectors out here, yes.
Like both things are using AWS only. That's why I'm asking. You're providing Atlas connectivity for the embeddings. So is there any way for this?
As far as I know, it's just Lambda is being used. Okay. I may need to go through it, but yes, as far as a 99%, it's just Lambda can do it, because again, Lambda is fetching it from there only. Yeah. So, but yeah, that's what I think I can get back to on that. But 90% it's to Lambda only. You can fetch it and then push it to any custom data source. Okay. But yeah, you have an option of using a custom data. So either if it's a Mongo Atlas running on AWS also.
Okay.
Anything more data. So I also wanted to show one more thing, but I don't have a what do you say, Redshift. So that's one thing. But yeah, in structured data source, that was for unstructured data source. For structured data source, you'll got a Redshift. So since I don't have a Redshift in my account, but once you have a Redshift, you can just use here, as you can go there to next, and then you can use Redshift serverless or provisioned, select it from here, and then you can use for structured data sources as well, and Glue Catalog to basically do the cataloging of it. And we also talked about the graphical, the Neptune, because a lot of use cases we also have, I think I forgot the name of that connector, Graph4RG or something was there, that basically it's a Python based library that you can directly use with Neptune to do that, create your application. Anything which is left, or should we go ahead? RAG, model choosing, how do we choose model, how do we customize model, how do we use routers, how do we play in playgrounds. I think I'll cover the agents is left, and I'll cover just the guardrails. Anything apart from that you wanted to discuss? Only two things I'll discuss. I'll cover agents and guardrails. Apart from that, if you think anything you want to discuss, just let me know. Oh, flows is okay. Flows is also a kind of flows. Flows is also something. So it's a new. If you want to create a flow, it just give you an interface. For example, again the same thing like the agentic workflow. But if you wanted to create a flow, for example, you want to connect multiple things at once, they get a visual interface to create it. For example, you can create a flow here to again. Like this, the logic, orchestration, code and everything just to connect it. So before the agent AI kind of stuff. So flow is also good. I've seen a lot of people using flow too much about just a visual interface where you can just orchestrate everything and create a flow through a thing where you can add logic, orchestrations. Again, if you look into these things, it's the same thing, just for you guys to have a much more orchestration out there, that when agent would be used, when inline code will be used, when knowledge base will be used, when collector, condition, iterator, you can just use it to create full workflow on in visual things. But yes, I've seen this, a lot of people using it a lot. But yes, I'll again open to that. You guys, yeah. You guys have a look. Let me know anything else you want to discuss on from the top to bottom of it. This is what Bedrock offers totally. Just apart from guardrails and agents, we'll cover those two things. So now again the very important component, the agents. So in agents, what like you do, so you can have two ways, like I said, you can have a single agent or you can have a multi-agent collaboration as well. So what you do in agent, if you remember the slide deck, you go to cloud agent, you select the agent. Okay, one more thing. So here's single agent creation, and if you look into there's on the bottom it was written enable multi-agent collaboration. Okay, if you again go back, so when I was creating the agent, see on the down it was written enable a multi-agent collaboration. Here you can use not one agent but multiple agents, which would be managed by a single agent, like I was telling the marketing example. So that's the one. So for example, now I go to this any of the agent, like I've created this. So what are the things it needs to have? One is that you go to edit in the thing, edit in this thing, you have got, again you've got multi-agent there, but in manual I'll tell you, first you select the model that you wanted to use. Like if you remember the thing, what we discussed, there's a model, then there's an action group which tells what the agent will do, and then the results. If it's a single model, multiple model, there's going to be multiple agents managed by a central agent which can collaborate, and multiple agents could also be managed by a step function or a strands agent. So if I go there, I selected a model and then I selected an action group. Now what could be an action group be? In action group, I can write any function. I can write a lambda function, or I can define an API schema as well. Maybe an API gateway on top of it, where I can go ahead and define a schema to API that agent can invoke to carry out a task. So either I can tell it define a lambda function. Like if you look it into function detail, you can use an existing lambda function. You can have a new lambda function, or if you go to API schemas, if I go to API schemas, you will again have the same things. You can have an API schemas with a lambda or an API gateway, which again have multiple lambda functions on back of it. So if you go down, if you look down to it, you've got action schema. You can have an API schema from an existing S3 bucket, or you can go ahead and define it, or you can define it using the inline editor as well. I think it shows about the insurance claim automation. So if we go through it, it talks about that how you can basically have an API for managing insurance claim by pulling a list of open claims. So path is /claims, then it gets list of all the claims, description. So it's fetching by the APIs. So if it's an open, so it's an example of it. It just fetches by the unique ID, the status of the claim, and then pushes it back. So that's how you can define the open API schemas out there. You can import the schemas, you can define it using inline schemas, or you can select the existing schemas you have as well. That's how you define. I also opened one of them. I think this I was showing to him. So this was the Bedrock agent samples. If you want to some questions, some examples around it, how does it work? You can go to it using. See, this is a helper function useful building the sessions to send files to agent. So this is basically adding a file session state. So this you can go to this thing. At this Bedrock samples, you will find a lot of examples of API schemas as well as the lot of examples of the Lambda functions to do a job. But at the end of the day, what if you again go back to the console? So what you are doing, again this process remains the same. You create a Bedrock agent, select a model which the Bedrock agent would be using. After that you select and you create an action group, that what action you are going to perform. In action group, either you can use a Lambda functions or you can use an API schema. You can import the API schema as well. You can write the API schemas as well. If I go to this select thing, if I go to this function details, I can have an action group 1, and you can have multiple action groups for a same thing as well. So, and in parameters. So if I create one with multi-agent collaboration, I have an option of editing here and adding the multiple agents there. And one more thing, you can also add knowledge bases into it. So like I said, it's not just the agents can just directly get it from LLM through any. If you wanted to fetch it the context from a knowledge base as well, you can add knowledge base as well. And similarly, if you use rather than using the invoke model API, if you're using the Converse API or Converse Stream API, you can directly define the Bedrock agents, the RAG, the LLMs into the same function, because it allows you to have a multi-turn conversations. But if you use an invoke model API, you can't do it, because invoke model API just have a single, it can just have a single turn communication out there. That's the good thing. That's the newer. That's why the Converse API is recently launched. And then if I edit it, see, like I said, you multi-agent is on there. Then you have a supervisor agent that supervises all these things, gives you results, and then you have got, and then you can add collaborators agent, and which gives returns a final response. For example, there again the same thing. What you're going to do, you're just adding a collaborator, and here if I open this, I can select an agent, its alias, agents which I have defined there, and can make it a part of the multi-agent collaboration workflow. So agent you define there, you call it here, or you basically define here only. So collaborators are the agents that will be defining as a child in a multi-agent workflow, and the supervisor would be something that supervises it and gives final result to the final LLM or do the final job. Any doubts on this? The multi-agent, how do you define the things? How do you define the Lambda functions, API schemas? How do you select the models? You don't define MCP here. So MCP is, you basically use MCP in the QCLI's thing. So MCP is usually used by, right now it's just used by the IDs, the chat based IDs, chatbot based IDs, because there the client is already involved. So you don't define MCPs here anywhere. If you have a QCLI, after I have a QCLI, I'll show you from QCLI how you can do it. But that's just for the like cursor or QCLI, which has a chat ID right now. That's where you integrate MCP servers. You don't define it here. Yes, what MCP server does, you can define it here, but not MCP servers as an MCP servers.
So here we have multiple action groups on there, right?
Yes.
So each action group is each agent, like each actions, right? So how this agent knows like which action needs to be triggered based on the prompt?
So yeah, I'll go there. I'll just, and then I'll tell you. Where is my agent? If I take this thing, I'll do this. See, there are two things to it. If you add another, see, if you look into this, there are two. Otherwise, once if you have it, you can have any of the orchestrator to do it. That's one way of doing it. Otherwise, there are parameters that allow you to define the objects relationship within the action group. That's where parameterize and say that this is to be used, this is to be correct. That what is the what do you say? What is the which one to be used on the top, and then which one to be used, the hierarchy of it. So you can define it here. So that's you can do this action group 1, 2, 3 and that space.
So before this agent, before calling this agent, we need an LLM part, right?
For yes, yes. So for every agent has an okay. Where was it? So every agent has a model attached to it. So example, if I go to agents, so if you look into it, create your agent by selecting a foundational model. You select, but this is the agent's foundational model. So two parts. Agent does everything with the help of foundational models. Action group is telling what the model is going to do, because it's again LLM is being used, but not in reactive approach, but in a proactive approach. So you are telling using action group that what model will do, and after after we get the result from model, what will you do with the result? So for example, if I go here, the top, see here, you select the model. So you can select any model here, Amazon's model or Anthropic models. This is the Bedrock's model to do a job. Because you don't need an LLM in an application. Yes, you may need it in an application, but yeah, if your application is directly calling a Bedrock agent only, it can do the job for you. But yes, there is going to be a model in part of it. Action group is just telling what action is going to be taken out of it. Nothing else. Like we're saying that how can you get the results from an external APIs, external databases. If results come, what you need to do with results. That's the proactive approach of doing it. Any doubts on agents? Because I think we are also running out of time. I need to start queue as well. And this is pretty good. Sorted. Guard is again, you basically create a guardrails, and then you create the, if you look into the, you can configure the content filters, the denied topics, the word filters, the sensitive information, the contextual routing. You can create all these things to put on your generative AI application. Anything that you still have doubt on Bedrock, or should we start with a queue? So yeah, we have till now we have touched upon these two layers of it. Now we're just on the top layer of it. Like we talked about, now we're talking about the applications. We'll not talk about now LLMs, foundational models, because now we'll talk about the applications that are already using this large language models or other foundational models to do a set of jobs that is built to do. And then you just need to utilize it. At the end of the day, these applications, each of them is used to perform a certain set of actions, and you just need to utilize it. Either it's Amazon Q in QuickSight, Amazon Q in Connect, or not Code Whisperer, but Amazon Q Developer, or I will also show Amazon Q, the CLI version of it. So first comes the Amazon Q Business. So what does Amazon Q Business does? Amazon Q Business is an AI powered assistant. I'll also show it in my console. So how easy it is to create. So you can use Amazon Business to create your applications in matter of minutes. So you can create maybe I'll not say production ready, but a very good application in matter of minutes by using everything. Now there you just need to provide a source. So first what we did, we talked about how easy it is to create RAG based things. Now what Amazon Q Business does, it will never ask you for the chunking, the parsing, the embedding models, everything. It will just ask you for the source from where you need your data to be extracted, and it will create a RAG based application for you in matter of minutes with an identity center on top of it. So if you look into this thing, Amazon Q Business, these are the multiple sources that it can get data from. Again, your databases, your Salesforce, SharePoint, Drive. I'll show this in the console as well. In S3 bucket, you have an identity provider already enabled there. You can use there, and then people query your Amazon Q Business, which can get data, context, or content or permissions from these things, and can create your application. So you can create an enterprise grade applications using Amazon Q Business in minutes and in minutes. Here again, it's a RAG based applications, but again a next layer of convenience for you. Like I said, in the third layer, where you don't need to worry about now not embedding, no workflow, no chunking, no parsing, no data source. You just need to define what data source it is. It will help you create a GenAI based applications without also telling you that what LLM you are using, whatever you are doing, nothing. Just add few things to it. What is going to data source? It will create application for you with an authenticated or non-authenticated application in minutes. This is how it will look. This is Amazon Q's interface. The Amazon Q business interface. We'll see this. Again, Q apps is pretty much similar to Q business only, but yeah, here you can create a more lightweight applications using agents and other things, and you can publish it to libraries as well. So, any doubts on Q business? We'll see the sources and everything in the console in a little while, but yeah, just to see it. So then comes the other parts, and this is one of my favorite service. This is Amazon Q Developer. So you can do, so Amazon Q Developer is a coding assistant which helps you in full SDLC pipeline, from writing codes to basically writing codes to giving you test cases, to writing IAC scripts for you, to also giving you there's another feature of Q Developer which was now moved to different service, which is also part of the slide deck. There was a feature in Q Developer to transform your .NET framework based applications to .NET Core. That helped a lot in modernization, or to migrate from VMware down. It's made into different service, but yes, now Q Developer can help you anything. It for giving you a security test for unit test cases, for checking the security vulnerabilities, for writing codes, and for breaking your monolithic into microservices as well, for trying to break your state as well. It could be used anywhere, and it's pretty good. Means the kind of code it writes is pretty good. It's pretty robust. This also I'll show in. I also have Visual Studio, so I'll show in Visual Studio this as well. So we'll skip this. I'll show in my console only, in my Visual Studio only. So yes, so now either Q business or Q Developer, it could be used in it could be used in any of the industries. You got some of the use cases from multiple industries where they have leveraged it to basically across it, for either for transformation or for writing codes or for creating applications. It's easy way to basically go ahead and create it, from financial services to media and entertainment, from HCLS to manufacturing to telecommunication. You'll find a lot of customers that have been using it, and I too have a lot of customers that have used Q Developer transform capabilities and now moved to C-Series to save a lot of effort, and they've also moved to Q Developer for their SDLC pipeline, which is saving a lot of cost there as well. And for Q Business also, they are trying to create some internal applications using Q Business only. Now I think we have discussed that. I think it's the ambiguous slide only. The Q comes in two products right now. It's Q Business, which basically is used to create the application, then Q Developer for your IT professional, data scientist for writing the codes, reviewing the codes, maximizing it, troubleshooting errors, transfer the workloads. Oh, I don't know why it's okay. It's some slides are ambiguous. Okay, this is also very good. So the new feature of Q Developer, that is CLI, which was saying, this is also very good. So if you guys have heard about, it's the Q Developer CLI, where you can streamline, like I said, you can streamline the development using the natural language. Now when I say development, it is anything. So now Q Developer CLI could be used as not just your development, it could help you in anything. Means all kind of, you don't need to leave your terminal to do anything, from writing codes to giving you answers as a chatbot to using MCP servers. It does everything for you at the end of the day, like write codes, run text, run bash commands, access AWS APIs, debug issues, deploy code, connect to MCP servers. CLI does it all for you. This is the Q Developer CLI there. So right now it comes in three, that is you have got 3.5 Sonnet, 3.7, and then you've got 4.1, which is recently launched as a model there. You can select the model, and then you can basically go ahead and /context basically stores all the crucial information and shows you context. For example, if you want to get a context for it, so context is also used. For example, each of the session is mapped to a profile. For example, if you're using Q developer for same code or for writing same things, you may need a different context. For example, data scientists may write a different code in a different language in a different context for a same thing, or a developer may write it different, or a DevOps engineer may write it different. So that's where the slash context thing comes in picture, where you can define that what is the context that you're going to put for particular things when you're using QCLI with a particular profile. So you can have a slash profile plus a slash context to do that thing. Profile and context go hand in hand. You'll have a slash profile and then you'll have a slash. For the same profile, you can basically use a context. If you're not defining the context, yeah, just so we can just definitely, you can go ahead and use a go ahead and use the QCLI and slash profile and slash context to basically have otherwise it will use a global context. So yes, QCLI has an extended support for MCP servers. So I think it's fine. We're running out of time. So yeah, Amazon Q integrations have in multiple other services. So you have got Amazon Q Business, you've got Amazon Q Developer, then you've got Amazon Q Developer CLI, and then you've got not developer Amazon Q CLI. Then it comes also in 3 other components. You've got Q in QuickSight. So if you guys have heard about GenBI, so QuickSight is our BI service, that is business intelligence tool like Tableau or Power BI. We have a service that is QuickSight. So now adding Amazon Q in QuickSight basically gives it the feature of having a GenBI, that is generative AI business intelligence. Then you've got Q in Connect. Connect is an AWS service for contact center solutions. And then you've got a Q in supply chain. So these are services where Q can be integrated to add a GenAI layer on top of it. Okay, transform, I think we can skip also. So any doubts till lunch, any doubts on this till now? Q business, Q developer, Q in QuickSight. Should we go with a, perfect. So first we'll quickly see Amazon Q business. So if you go to Amazon Q Business, you can click on Create Applications. When you click Create Applications, it will ask you, do you want an authenticated user access or do you want an anonymous user access? If you go to authenticated user access, it will by default, it will ask you to have an identity center in picture. Identity center is an identity solution in AWS to have a identity based access to things. So he'll ask you, if you remember, this is the same web experience that you saw in the slide deck as well. So it will create something like this. If you go there, it will ask you for an access method. You can use identity center or you can use any of the identity provider as well. So if you can do this or you can do this, and then it will ask for choose a user. I am a user in my identity center, so I'm just choosing myself. And then if you go to create, it will take some time to create, means 5-10 minutes it will take. And once this is created, it will something like this will get started. Here you can just add the data source. So if you add the data source, it will ask you to add an index. If you go ahead and where did it go? So it will just ask you for an index. You can either use a Kendra based index or an enterprise index to create it. Again, enterprise index is costed on an enterprise indexing, and then starter index. If I go to starter index, I can add an index. Once I add an index, then I can add a data sources to it. So now I can add a data source. So I can choose any of the data source. I can use most popular. I can use S3 web crawler or uploading the file, or I can use all of them. I can use this. And so this is just for creating your enterprise internal application. You can use Asana, Box, Confluence, anything. You choose anything, it will ask you for. It can use other cloud providers as well, like Google G Drive, GitHub, Box, Jira, or Gmail, other things. Or you can have an on-premise connectivity as well with a Confluence, GitHub, and SharePoint out there. So once you basically do it, for example, if I go ahead and do it, you can just select any of the S3 bucket. Or if you want, you can just use any of the crawler to crawl it from an web applications, and once I choose these things, I need to submit these things, and it will just add in a, for example, if I add, for example, if I want to do it from the amazondocs.com, I won't crawl from it and get result from it. I can just go here, put a source URL. I'll put a source URL as this. Authentication based on what you want. No authentication, basic KLM from authentication. You can just choose these things. Once you choose these things, how do you want the sync to data to be? See, now it's again creating a RAG based application only, but it's not asking for anything. No embedding models, nothing. Just asking for what do you want the sync to be. So you can sync only, you can sync the domain, subdomains, you can sync every time. And then it asks you for URL patterns to index the crawling and other things. If I add the data source, okay, frequency of sync, and then you can add the data source. What is happening? What is missing now? So it will add it. I think the role is not correct. Yes, I need to check that. So yes, so once you add the role, you create a data source. Once you create the data source, it will just start, and you don't need to do anything. If you go back to it, it has already created for any of the applications. If you go to applications, you open any of the applications like this or something, you'll already get a web experience. You just need to click on it. It will open. This has already been created. Whatever you create, the front end and everything is already created for you. I just added an index and this data source for this also, maybe crawler or S3 bucket, and it will open the same page like we saw in the deck. It will ask me for my username and password, and then that's how you can just go ahead and create application. It will come to the same interface. You guys got that? How you can create the application and everything. So should we go to Q developer, or have any question? Anybody has any questions on? My role was not correct. I choose any role. No, I could have chosen the create role and could have done it. My role was not correct. So I'll go to Visual Studio. See, I've already integrated the code. I'll just check once if folder is. So see, I've got an application now. I can just, the application I've imported, this code I've imported. So now I can use this Q developer to basically go ahead and either write my code. For example, if I want it to explain the code to me, let me go here. So there's a piece of .NET code. I just put it that can you make it stateless. So it's what it said that looking at the order service already mostly stateless and it does not maintain any mutable state out there between method calls. However, I can make it completely stateless by removing the dependency injection field. It scanned the code and told that what is the stateful component in it, and then recommended if I'll go ahead and put it, it will give me the new function code as well. So so it removed all the private fields and removed it. So that's and similarly, so same, it could scan the codes, make it stateless, decompose from monolithic microservice, or it can be used to write a new code set of code as well. If you go ahead and tell it to write a new piece of code, it will write a new piece of code for you as well. So that's the Cube developer. It can give you test cases as well to test a particular things. If I put it, can you optimize the code? It will give you the so sometimes it will give you the what is the complexity of it, and then it'll tell it can optimize or not. So it told that you can optimize the order service by removing the unnecessary variables by using a direct link operations by creating a lookup for better. So it will move it to a global, and then it will try calling it globally. So this is how you can not just use Cube developer to write codes, you can also try to make it more and more stateless, decompose it, or you write test cases through it, or make it optimize your code. You can use it in all these scenarios, Cube developers. So this is, any doubts on Cube developer, it's a direct, it could be integrated in most of the IDEs from JetBrains to Visual Studios everywhere. You can use and can use it to basically write codes, write test cases, check the security, optimize it and anything. Any doubts on this? Same, it's the same coding assistant. It's just the same all coding assistant. So it's just, I could have said that it's a better in terms of security, vulnerability or not. It's just whatever you use it, whatever fits you it. I think it's the same. But I'll tell you the best thing about it is the Cube developer CLI. That is good thing. So, but yeah, this is pretty much the same. The model is also almost the same. So yeah, but yes, the model which is powering this and the code, they are pretty good. It doesn't let you write a vague codes. The coding assistant is pretty good. It writes very good codes. I'm not sure which model Copilot uses, but this uses Claude's model and it's pretty good. But in terms of functionality, it will be same. Okay, my CLI is already open, so I'll just put it. See, I just need to, so I've already AWS CLI installed, so I just need to put QChat. Oh, MCP server is coming. Wait. So now it shows that you're chatting with Claude agent. So I can change the model as well. If I put /, if I remember, if in the slide deck Q supports 3 models right now, 3.5, 3.7, 4. I change it to 4. I can change the model as well. It shows me to change it from Sonnet to 3.7 to 3.5. I can choose anything. 4 being a, now the option of QCLI is that you can do anything. For example, if I need to, what should I write? So my point of saying is that you can do anything. For example, if I chatted like a normal chatbot, like again write a same with the goes. See, it gave you the result like as a normal chatbot from your terminal. I didn't do anything. Is there anything else? Same way the ChatGPT and nothing. Now not just this, if you want, you can just go ahead and just use it similar way as to write codes. For example, if I put write code for uploading images into S3 bucket using Python. See, it had written code as well. So it has got functionalities of Q, the functionalities of a normal chatbot plus Q developer, CLI, and other things. So you don't need to leave your console. For example, I think I'll just check which MCP server I have. So I've already have an MCP server there. You just need to write the MCP server configuration into. I'll just show you that file. So this is the, so you just need to write this mcp.json file. This is where you need to call your MCP servers. So that's where my Amazon, so .aws is where the profiles are usually stored in AWS, the AWS credential file. There's another folder that is created for Q, because it will take the by default the profile from there, and then the JSON file will tell me which thing I've taken. So if I look into it, I can see that nothing too complicated. My MCP server is AWS labs.aws diagram. So it's an MCP server to basically go ahead and create AWS architecture diagrams. So you may say that where do we get it from? So if you go to the AWS documentation, you go to AWS documentation, put AWS MCP servers, you'll get an option. So see, there's all the MCP servers from AWS. So if you go to MCP server, for example, if you wanted to use the cost analysis one, I thought I had a cost analysis one. So you can use, you just need to change, see, you just need to change this thing. So my right now argument has this thing, you just need to change it to AWS lab.costanalysis.mcp servers. Right now I had this for minus AWS labs.aws diagram.mcp servers. So that's the only thing. I have not done anything. I have just added this MCP file, and I can use the MCP server that is available on AWS. If I want to use some other MCP servers, I need to install that the main library and can use those MCP servers directly. No, nothing else. Just the main name of the MCP server, just the argument passing of it, and then the error and other things. No, now I can just quickly create an architecture. For example, which architecture? So if you look into when I'm initializing the queue, because there are MCP servers already initialized, it is initializing that as well. 0 of 2 MCP servers. So now I can create any of the, what do you say, any create architecture, or for example create an AWS architecture for data analytics pipeline. If this MCP server would have not been there, you may not get the ideal data, because none of the model directly gives the image of the AWS architectures. It will give you that, but since it's there, it will give, okay, it will ask me for trusted. Till it's coming up, any doubt on this QCLI, Q developer, Q business, how MCP server works, how MCP server is defined? So it shows creating a comprehensive data analytics service. So it's just creating it. It almost created it. So it's just thinking. So if you can't see that thing, there's a thinking. So that's why it's not coming. So it's thinking. So it will now create it. Similarly, you can use MCP servers for EKS, data analytics, Redshift, cost, everything. Everything works pretty good. So I've tried this one. I've tried cost analysis. I have tried EKS. So they work. I have tried the analytics one. They work pretty good. So the EKS one lets you create all the deployment files, the workload files, the pod, and all files quite optimized with the new API versions and everything. Okay, that's I think created. Okay, this diagram uses standard analytics pipeline with data source this AWS enhanced. So it has created it. Now you may be thinking where it is stored, because I also don't know where it is stored. So where are diagrams stored? So it is stored in user generated diagrams. So you can go to this folder. We can go to this folder. So it has created this pipeline. It created this architecture for a data analytics pipeline, which is all database services like EMR is there, ETL is there, Kinesis is there, all the data services are there. So that's how. If you could have directly done it without MCP servers, you wouldn't have got this kind of architecture, or you wouldn't have got the architectures only, because creating a photo of an AWS based thing, it doesn't create any of the model, doesn't create it. If you try it with ChatGPT also, it will not let you create an AWS based architecture because of the compliance. So, but if you have an AWS based MCP servers, you can just use that to create architectures. Now, it may be not always correct, maybe 50, 60, 30%, but it will give you a good idea to get a good startup thing. Any doubts on anything? MCP servers or Q developer, QCLI?